What up, party people? Today, I want to talk about something which is an event where the people there quite literally will party. Party people. Talking about the NBA draft and how much of a shit show it is. What I mean by this is there is quite literally no way to predict if a player is going to be good or not. And I shouldn't say it's totally impossible because great picks have been made in the past. But from a fan perspective, it seems like players just get picked, and if they're good, they're good, and if they're not, they're not. You know, obviously, like players like Victor Wembanyama are like you could kind of assume like his floor is pretty high. He's 7'4", so he's probably at the bare minimum going to be an elite shot blocker, interior defender. You know, and he's going to be a lob threat. He's going to get easy buckets. You know, in the paint. But he's obviously much more than that, right? But that is the floor. And when a player has an extremely high floor, it typically aligns with them also having a very high ceiling. But I think the thing that's hard to predict and the thing that's hard to project when you're looking at players that are not currently playing on the NBA level is like you see what they are in a different league with different rules and things like that. It is so extremely hard to project how that skill set is going to translate because the NBA is just a different pool of competitors. And, you know, some guys last a year, some guys last 5 years, some guys last 20 years, right? So it's just a show. It really is. Like, you can never predict who's actually going to be good. Like, I mean, like, look at Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic was the 41st pick. He was in the second round. And, you know, he was in the same draft as Joel Embiid. So look at that. You got two MVPs from the same draft class. And the one that got picked in the second round has 3 MVPs, whereas the guy that got picked third overall has 1 MVP. So it's so difficult. It's just so difficult. That's why I'm like, I think second round picks are just as valuable as first round picks because it's all about like the value that you think this player has, and then once they get into your organization, how are you going to utilize them and continue to develop them with your staff? If you can have a plan like that, you could probably pick a handful of players at the spot that you're picking, and most of them will pan out right if you just have that right plan. You know, if you don't have that right plan, it's going to be difficult. But also, the talent has to be there, or at least the work ethic has to be there. You have to have some talent to make it to the league, but the work ethic, I think, is much more important because once you're working with NBA coaches and guys that, you know, have been developing players on a professional level for, you know, decades, you know, you're going to be in good hands. And your job at that point is to focus on basketball. So you got to be resourceful and use the resources that your team is providing you with in order to get better. And obviously, different teams have different styles and, you know, emphasize different things, but seriously, I mean, look at Isaiah Thomas. You know, not the original Isaiah Thomas, but the Sacramento Kings, Boston Celtics, Isaiah Thomas. He was the last pick in the draft. He was the last pick in the draft, probably because he's 5'9". But I personally think Isaiah Thomas should have been MVP when he was in Boston. You guys wouldn't believe how sick this guy had me when it was the Wizards versus the Celtics, and I can't remember. I think it was like 2016 or 2017 in those playoffs because we had a good team those 2 years. And everyone roasts John Wall for saying that, oh, LeBron didn't want to see us that year, blah, blah, whatever. Like, no. Like, I don't know if we would have beaten the Cavs, but we would have gotten a game or two from them, which in my mind, that's the best Wizards team I've seen in my lifetime, right? So hopefully we're going to exceed that, very soon here, but we'll see. But my point being is that Isaiah Thomas was something else. He was 5'9", and you could not guard this guy. That era of Isaiah Thomas was just different, right? And again, that's the last pick in the draft, the 60th overall pick, lighting up the number 1 overall pick and the number 3 overall pick in Bradley Beal, right? So it's just, it doesn't matter where you get picked in the draft, right? It doesn't even matter if you get picked on some level. Like, look at what the Heat have done, getting guys like Kendrick Nunn and, Duncan Robinson and, all these other guys, Max Strus, just finding guys that slip out of the draft range and then they turn them into really good players. Like, most of these guys go on to sign, big contracts and stuff. Kendrick Nunn's out of the league now, but Max Strus signed a big contract with the Cavaliers. There's potential in pretty much any player that's making it to even be considered in the NBA. You just have to figure out how are you going to tap into that potential and how are you going to make that player the best version that they can be. And obviously, that doesn't mean every single player is going to be LeBron James. That's just not how it works. But when you have a good combination of tools and you play the game the right way, the sky really is the limit. But that's why I think like a lot of these NBA trades we see now involve so many second round picks. Like, it's like there's been this just like new value added to second round picks in the trade market because people are like, oh, well, look at all of these second round picks around the league dominating. Jalen Brunson, also a second round pick. So it's kind of like, yeah, why not take the chance and get as many second round picks as we possibly can? Because any pick in the draft could be, the next Nikola Jokic, could be the next Jalen Brunson, it could be the next Draymond Green. You really never know. There's so much talent entering the league nowadays. You really never know what's going to happen. I mean, let's not even talk slipping, to the second round. You have guys that were projected to go like top 5 in a couple, different drafts recently that wind up slipping. Like Dalton Connect was probably supposed to go 5 or 6. That was kind of where I had him placed in this year's draft. Winds up going 17 to the Lakers. Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore was supposed to go top 4, winds up going 20th overall. So, and Cam Whitmore's good. Like, Cam Whitmore has shown that, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have let me slip that far. Like, I am talented. So, like I said, it's a show. You don't know what's going to happen. It's literally anything could happen. You could find the next LeBron James at the 58th pick. Or, you could pick some guy who should have never been drafted, number 1 or number 2 overall. You really never know. You never know until they step foot onto an NBA court for a regular season game. You don't know. You don't know at all. And I think that's why I have a lot of respect for NBA GMs and coaches too. But NBA GMs really that you have a tough job. And if you mess that up, the fans, first of all, probably won't forgive you. But your front office, colleagues are also probably not going to let that slide. So if you're picking in the top 3 and you mess that up, especially if you did that once already and then you do it again, oh no, you're out of there. They're not gonna let you fumble, good luck in the NBA draft lottery multiple times. You're not getting away with that too many times. But I feel even recently, there's been good second round picks historically as well, but recently I feel like there's just, you can notice there's so much talent coming into the league that you're deep into the second round and you're still finding guys that can be contributors on a nightly basis for an NBA team. And in some situations, you're finding all-stars and MVPs. So if your team only has like a second round pick in a given year, I wouldn't worry about it, because second round pick is definitely a lot better than not having any picks at all. And a second round pick isn't that much different than a first round pick. It's not much different at all anymore. And, basketball is just getting more talented. So, as a fan, I think we're in for a treat. It's going to be cool. And we're going to continue to see guys that get picked, outside the lottery, outside the first round. Even players that don't get drafted at all, that are going to, reach new heights for, their draft classification.